Okay, now I've gotcha. Ah! Dang it!
You need some help?
Yeah.
Intro time!
Fighting games are loved for a number of reasons, whether it's for the vast array of characters, intuitive combat systems, or just the simple pleasure of beating the stuffing out of someone.
But if there's one thing we almost never like about fighting games, it's bosses. More often than not, they have little to no personality. And are so freaking cheap!
Whether it's for overpowered moves, ridiculous AI, or something else entirely, bosses in fighting games are usually designed to suck the quarters out of desperate gamers. Even console-only fighters aren't immune to this annoying trope.
So today we're gonna vent out our frustration by ripping into those we feel are the worst offenders of this aspect. Now keep in mind, we're only covering bosses that at least one of us have faced.
For example, neither of us has played Dissidia Duodecim Final Fantasy, so Feral Chaos won't be on here. But trust us, we've got a lot to say, and it will not be pretty. And with all that said,
let's get started! We can't even agree on a line.
Whatever.
One of the best parts of the game Okami was fighting the final boss, Yami. This battle was amazing, putting your skills to the test with it being a complete symbol of the dark side of humanity's nature. You know?
But in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, they cheapened this guy twice over. For one, they insulted this guy by making him little more than the staple multi-phase boss fight we expect in a versus game. And second, is the way he fights.
For one thing, some of his moves can just be a pain to dodge because the hitboxes for those moves are so huge! This means you'll either be double jumping a lot or blocking a lot. In the latter case, this means you're going to be taking quite a bit of chip damage.
This is especially troublesome in his second and third phases, in which he has a hyper which is a grab and is extremely difficult to dodge. In phase 2, he'll grab you with his tentacles and shock you, and no, this has nothing to do with hentai. In phase 3, well, that one pretty much speaks for itself.
Also, your level 3 hyper combos are basically useless in this fight, because Yami can't be grabbed. And the fact that level 3 hypers are cinematic sequences, that means you're stuck using level 1 hypers. But the worst part is that he has a move that drains your hyper gauge. Every last bit of it. Not even getting to hear Rising Sun in the final part is worth all this pain.
And while it's true that all of Yami's moves are taken right out of Okami, it's no excuse because they just don't translate well to a fighting game. Capcom, you should be ashamed for desecrating one of the greatest final bosses in history. When most people talk about cheap bosses in the Tekken series, they usually have their vitriol-laden fingers pointed squarely at Azazel from Tekken 6. However, neither of us has actually played Tekken 6.
Which is okay, because Jinpachi from Tekken 5 was already a big enough pain as it was. Seriously, imprisoning this guy underneath the temple is probably the biggest mistake that his son Heihachi ever made. As the force being behind the 5th King of Iron Fist tournament, he's an absolute beast.
For one thing, he has some extremely fast reaction speed, and his moves have high priority, meaning he will most likely stop your attack cold and deal a ton of damage to you. Not only that, but several of his moves are unblockable, meaning dodging is your only option if you don't want to get pounded.
That alone is bad enough. But one of those unblockable attacks is a fireball. A freaking fireball! Yes, I know fireballs are commonplace in fighting games, but not in Tekken! Not only that, but if you're close enough, he can fire 2 of these or more at a time. Yay!
And it gets worse. He has a move that can stun you and leave you wide open, a move that can drain your health, and if he manages to launch you, he can juggle you with not 1, not 2, but 3 lightning-fast uppercuts. How is that fair? Oh wait, it isn't.
Yeah, Jinbayashi is playing out OP, but what do you expect from the demon-possessed founder of the Mishima Zaibatsu? Seriously, this entire family is just messed up! One thing that seemed to mark this generation of consoles is the significant rise of indie games. The growing popularity of these services like Steam have caused a lot of great indie games to become noticed.
Skullgirls is probably one of the best examples of the growth of indie games, featuring some freaky characters, an attractive Art Deco presentation, and the Skullgirl Marie is one of the cheapest bosses ever made.
Yeah, she's not that hard on the easier settings, but by the time you get to Nightmare difficulty, she becomes almost impossible. There are 3 phases in this fight, and they just keep getting more and more cheap as the fight goes on.
In the first phase, her attacks include throwing a constant array of skulls to annoy you and stop you from getting close, summoning skeletons to grapple you, unleashing a skeletal battering ram, and calling forth an exploding skeleton if you're too far away. When she transforms, which, by the way, can hurt you if you're too close, Marie will start calling a shadow that can attack you from any direction, a charging skeletal knight, and raising a gangster from the dead to push you back with friggin' gunfire.
Oh, but we haven't even talked about the worst part of this fight, the final phase. Here, she'll just start spamming all of her attacks non-stop, which can all cause an incredible amount of damage because they're all coming at once. It's especially painful in story mode because you have to go through all 3 phases with 1 character.
And just remember, this is basically what happens to a woman who makes a wish on the Skull Heart. That thing is basically just like Soul Edge, except more MacGuffin.
So ladies, just stop chasing this thing, otherwise you'll end up like her. Seriously, Quarter Guy, what is up with these people and searching for weapons and artifacts that just make them cursed by the end of it?
The lure of power, wee dude. The lure of power.
Quarter Guy!
What?
Azuma!
As I'm sure you all know, I absolutely hate Hazama. Or Terami, or whatever the hell you call him. But while he is a god of trolling and a complete villain Sue, his regular form is interesting and fun to play against. His unlimited form, on the other hand, is anything but.
For starters, like pretty much all unlimited characters, he's faster and more powerful than before. Not only that, but in his regular form, he had certain moves that required a setup to use into another move. His unlimited form does not have this restriction, meaning he can pull out all those moves whenever he wants.
And it gets worse. You know his eternal coils of the Dragon Serpent? Yeah, that distortion drive becomes extremely difficult to dodge unless you're in the air constantly. Few things feel worse than getting reeled in and torn to shreds by this troll, all while enduring his razor-sharp tongue. Oh, and sometimes, just to troll you even further, he'll combo into his astral heat and end the match on the spot.
And we haven't even gone to that freaking shield of his! Seriously, if you're too close to him, that shield will just drain your health and heal him. So it's basically a constant soul eater. And the only way he's gonna drop that shield is for you to either combo him or knock him down. Sure, if you attack him from long range, it won't be effective, but his Ouroboros can basically bring you right back to him for even more punishment.
Not only that, but Unlimited Hazama has something that we usually only see in racing games. Everyone say it with me. Rubber Band AI. The moment you get a big lead on him, he'll start exploiting the smallest opening and start hammering you big time. Geez, it's bad enough in Mario Kart, but in a fighting game? Are you serious? Okay, now I'm convinced that this is the guy who taught Hades how to troll.
Hades, run, terribly.
A lot lot of people keep saying Seth is ridiculously cheap from Street Fighter 4. Let me tell you, Seth is nothing compared to Gil from Street Fighter 3. You see, Street Fighter 4 had these things called focus attacks, and they made fighting Seth a lot less painful. When fighting Gil, however, there's no such mechanics you can abuse to make this any easier.
Of course, it stands to reason that his normal moves do a lot of damage, even when blocked, by the way, but it starts getting crazy when he busts out the projectiles. Aside from the fact that his projectile changes depending on which direction he's facing, both his pyrokinesis and cryokinesis go right through your standard projectiles. You'll need an EX projectile just to cancel them out.
Not convinced yet? Well, his moves do a lot of heavy damage on hit stun. He can string together juggles to no end. Still not convinced? In Street Fighter 3, every character has a selection of 3 super arts, but you can only use 1 per match. However, Gil is able to use all 3.
The first, Meteor Storm, pummels you with a rain of both pyro and cryokinesis attacks, which can cause a lot of damage even when blocked, unless you have Daigo level proficiency with parrying.
The second one, Seraphinic Wing, is even worse. It covers the whole screen, can deal damage up to 1/3 of your health bar when blocked! And to make things worse, it can't be parried. At all. If he pulls this move off, you will be taking damage from it.
But the worst part about Gil is that just when you think you've beaten him...
Ah!